Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the January 27th meeting of the Peninsula School District Board of Directors meeting to order. We have special guests tonight to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Riley Russell and Eva Gregory, fifth graders from Swiftwater Elementary, are going to lead us. Riley and Eva write the morning announcements every single day here at Swiftwater. So, welcome.
Good evening, School Board and Swiftwater Shield. Today is Thursday, January 27th. My name is Eva. Mine is Riley. We are fifth graders in Mr. Canoto's class. The word of the day is appreciate. We appreciate our school board members. We value and respect all you do for our school and community. You support all students being super inclusive, keeping us safe in and around school. You help us become great learners. Thank you for all you do. Today is Bubble Wrap Day. Bubble Wrap is very protective. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Riley and Eva.
Thank you.
Nice job. Just want to take a moment to thank everyone for attending and for wearing your masks. As you know, it's a requirement. And take a moment to remind those that if anyone's not wearing a mask, remind you that you do need to wear a mask and follow the rules and guidelines as they've been given to us, or we have to adjourn the meeting and move to an alternate location. So thanks for your cooperation. I'd like to share a quick update that I don't want to leave until the end of the meeting. As you know, our board has been working for weeks on developing our strategic plan for the PSD for the next 5 years. We're very excited about our rough draft, which is now complete, and will go now to a team of administrators to be fine-tuned and then presented to the community later this spring. As we consider the mission and the vision for our district, we're keenly aware that the strategic plan starts with the 5 of us, and we must model the values that we have listed for the PSD. We met again yesterday, at which time we renewed our commitment to our mission and to each other. We're 5 very different individuals on the board, but we work together as one board with the sole purpose of providing every one of our students the very best educational opportunity possible. To that end, we recognize the need for continued professional and board development opportunities so that we are always learning, bettering ourselves, and becoming the best board we can be. We will make mistakes, but at the end of the day, to quote Brene Brown, we don't have to be right, just do what is right. So with that, let's move to the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? No? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved by David and seconded by Chuck to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. The agenda is approved. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve?
Approve the consent agenda.
All right. Second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Natalie to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion's carried. The consent agenda has been approved. Next up, item 5.1. John Yellowlees is going to come up and talk about the Highly Capable program.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Board of Directors, Superintendent Barr, and happy School Board Recognition Month. Thank you for all that you do for our students, our staff, and our community. So I'm honored to be here tonight to introduce Joe Giovannini, and a few of our highly capable teachers are here with us tonight. And they are being recognized by the Washington Association of Educators of the Talented and Gifted, also known as WATAG for short. And the recognition is for their support and dedication to students receiving services through our highly capable program. So quite an honor, and we're fortunate in Peninsula School District to have a great coordinator, Joy Giovannini, leading our highly capable programming, and equally as fortunate to have some amazing and talented teachers that work with our students each and every day. So I'd like to welcome Joy up here with a few of our highly capable teachers just to say a few words and to recognize the work that they do for all of our students each and every day. And I believe we have a certificate here. Find this. Okay, so come on up here. So here is the certificate to recognize the great work that you all do in our highly capable programming. So congratulations, and thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you so much for giving us just a couple of minutes. We really appreciate all that you do. And again, as John Alexie said, thank you so much for this month that really honors you, but it's really all the time for the work that you put in countless hours. We are really fortunate in our district to have on both sides support from the district office side. It's really unique to have a superintendent that's part of the highly capable advisory for the entire state of Washington and understanding and having a heart for students of our entire district needing to be seen, needing to get really like their card punched every day so that they're challenged, they're at the edge of their learning, things aren't so difficult that they shut down, but they're difficult and challenging them and keeping them where they need to be. And then we also have in the classrooms, we have a couple of teachers coming today to just share a little bit of information, which is so wonderful. But truly, if you saw all the teachers that are working with our highly capable students, I would have a line over 100 teachers long, because we'd have every kindergarten and first grade teacher that's looking how to differentiate for those young learners. And I can't tell you how many times in the last couple of weeks I've been in the kindergarten, first grade classes talking about how do we meet these needs? What does this learner look like? How do we really wrap around those students? We have the clusters at all of the elementary schools. So we have 30-some, 40-some, depending on the year, teachers that are looking 2nd through 5th grade how to support those students. And then we have the PACE teachers, 8 incredible teachers working at 3 different sites to be able to meet the really unique needs. When we talk more this year about MTSS and really thinking about that response to intervention, there's some students that need really a unique setting, and they see that all the time, and they'll talk more about that. And then at secondary, we have all those advanced classes as well. So I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate the advocacy that Creston is giving all of our students. So thank you for that, but really know that it's absolutely a district-wide approach, and it's all about having that equity focus to find all of those students, the wide range. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of go teacher by teacher. First is Lori Dye, and she's coming to us from Voyager.
Hello. I'm one of the 4-5 PACE teachers at Voyager, and it's such an honor to work with these special kids. And today I asked them, what would we do if we didn't have the PACE program? And they said, oh, we would be so bored. We love school. We love to be challenged. And it just warmed my heart that this is their place. And they don't have to be embarrassed because they know the answers or they learn quickly. They work together, and they're always after me, more. Okay, challenges. We love math. And so it's just a special place, and I'm glad we have that program in our district.
Thank you.
And this is Susan Willis.
Oh, look, are these under here for us? I'm Susan Willis, and I teach 4-5 PACE with Ms. Kanerk at Purdy Elementary. And it's the first year Purdy's hosted this program, which is very, very nice. I have lots of students who are new to PACE. And it's interesting you asked us to speak tonight, because when I came in this morning, I'm going to try not to be, I'm very passionate about this. One of the specialist teachers said to me, PACE seems to be going really well. I've noticed a lot of differences in the kids. And I asked her if she could clarify what she meant by that. And she said she was seeing a lot more engagement, a lot more collaboration, and a lot more investment in each other as a classroom community. And so I decided, I had heard from the specialist, and the district has provided us with wonderful opportunities as teachers to learn more about what we're doing. But I was missing the voice of the children. So I went in and I sat down. I have the pleasure of having Abby in one of my classes, and I sat down with the 38 kids who are at Purdy, and I asked them, talk to me. Tell me what you're feeling. Because a lot of you have come from a general ed classroom into PACE, and this is very new to you. And the things I heard over and over from my students is I finally don't feel alone. I feel like I have peers who understand my thinking. And that just spoke volumes to me, so thank you.
And I am Alice Kanerk, and I teach 4-5 PACE at Purdy as well. And I would echo everything that Susan and Lori said, because I agree definitely with their comments. A lot of times when we have students that are new to the PACE program, they have expressed dissatisfaction with school prior to joining. Their parents and the students report school is frustrating to them or boring, and they weren't feeling like they were socializing with their peers. And like Susan and Lori said, PACE is a happy place. The kids feel like they've found their tribe. They enjoy being there, and they enjoy the schoolwork. We've got challenging, fun activities for them that are just right for our PACE students. So I am really, truly grateful to Peninsula School District for providing those options for kids that is right for. So thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate all you do. Now we're going to move on to our student board reps, discussion and comment. Annalise, you want to start?
All right, there we go. All right, I was just talking to my leadership teacher, and we were just talking about what's going on in the school and Peninsula area, and she was just super excited, and we just have some great things coming up and some things that have happened. So first, I would like to highlight the leadership teacher, Ms. Dominu, is also an AVID teacher, so she loves that we're supporting it and diving deeper into it. And today recently they had their best AVID recruitments ever, and they got 20 students for AVID 9 and 10. And she likes to highlight that AVID kids are leaders of the school, and it just fills her with joy and pride that you get to bring light to them and just help them shine a little bit outside of just a leadership class. Back in December, we had a school-wide gift drive. We donated all of that to Fish Food Bank, and we thought, well, all of these donations always cater towards younger kids because that's very important, but what about the older kids that still struggle to get a present? So our main focus as high schoolers was to target the older age divisions, like teenagers, so we were super excited that we got to bring in some cool things that teenagers would also enjoy. So that was really cool. February is coming up, and with all of the Valentine stuff, we have done this for a long time. It's called Share the Love Month, and the first week is PHS/community, so we have a food drive led by our own Key Club, and we're going to be donating all of that for backpacks for kids, a super, super cool and great establishment. And the second one for the community is we just like to encourage people to go out and support small businesses, community businesses, whether that's going to dinner or just going somewhere and supporting something that would help the community. Next up is Love Each Other Month. We have been doing this for a long time, and it's called a compliment wall. So if you have a friend or someone that you really just want to acknowledge, you write a compliment on a card, and then we pin it up on the wall. So we have this entire wall of compliments of people around the school, and it's just such an exciting thing, and it looks so cool, and you walk into school in the commons, and all you see is just compliments of people throughout our school. It's a really, really great thing. And then lastly is Love Yourself Week, so it's focused more community, and then love each other, and then love yourself. So it kind of like channels into yourself. We're doing this thing with social media and all of the things that go on to submit a unique trait that you have, and you talk about what you love about it and how you feel you can express yourself through it. And we're going to put it up in our school monitors with a picture of them so you get to see student faces, which is so important because with the masks you don't get to see the faces. So we really want to just get to know each other at a different level, and then we'll put it on our Instagrams and all of those things. And then just kind of spring fling is on the horizon. It's still kind of, in the making and the planning, but we're just excited because it brings a lot of excitement and a sense of community, which is the biggest part and the theme of our school is community this year. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Caroline?
Big Harbor High School doesn't have too much going on. We've been mainly focusing on finals week, which was today and yesterday, actually. So this past week, we've been focusing on sending out supportive messages to all the kids, and we have a spirit wall with a lot of posters on it with positive messages saying you can do this. It's just 2 days. You're going to be able to do it. You got it. And it's really great to see how that helps people feel more at ease because finals is a very stressful time. Something that we are starting to work on is our auto safety week, which is coming in a few months, but it does take some time to plan. We partner with the fire department and the police department, and we are brainstorming different ideas to have and different events to have during the week. And we have an idea of contacting and partnering up with elementary schools and having the kindergartners and the little young kids write letters to the seniors saying that they want them to drive safe and to have fun at prom and all of that stuff. And Auto Safety Week is a really important week. It's just really important for everyone. Another thing we have going on is we are starting to think more about prom, which is going to be in June. And we're all excited about that. The seniors are very excited that we get to have a prom as of right now, and hopefully it stays that way. But we are working on the themes. We're working on our venue. We have our venue set, but we need to work on decorations and food and other stuff like that. So not too much is going on, but there are a few things that we're excited about.
That's great. Does anyone have questions for Caroline or Annalise?
Can we come and put a note on the compliment wall?
Absolutely. Okay. That's awesome. I love that idea, and the all the different, loving yourself and your community and all that. And that's not true, Caroline. You have a lot going on. don't sell your school short. Okay, thank you so much. I always love to hear what's going on in your schools and all that. Thank you. Yeah. Come on in. Okay, next up, comments from the community. I apologize in advance. I have been given a couple of extra just sort of informational pieces by the state to read before we get into comments from the community. But first, the board recognizes the value of public comment on issues related to district business. In order to permit fair and orderly expression of such comment, the board provides time for public comment during each regularly scheduled monthly board business meeting. Speakers will be given up to 3 minutes or less, depending on the number of registered speakers. We'll be displaying a countdown timer tonight so that speakers will be aware of their time. That may be new, and you should be able to see it on this screen if you're speaking from the podium. That way you'll have some idea when you're getting close to the 3-minute mark, because while it's always been our policy, we've often let speakers go over just because it seemed like they were almost done, and that is not something that we're able to do. So we do need to cut it, and that's just going to be the way it is, from now on. So I just wanted to say that up front so that you don't feel like you take it personally if it happens when it's your turn. So watch the clock if you think you might go over. As a matter of practice, the board will not respond to comments or engage in dialogue at the meeting. Most issues require that the board review all available information before making a statement. The president may request the superintendent delegate the response to the appropriate PSD staff member. We appreciate your understanding and cooperation. As of today, all school boards have been asked to issue a reminder that school districts do not have the authority to require or waive vaccines. School vaccine requirements are solely controlled by the Washington State Board of Health, and to that end, these were on the seats tonight, and I'm sure you've seen these. They're on the district website, and it's a survey from the Board of Health. But they asked us to make very clear this is not a school board. This is a Board of Health survey statewide. And so this is the appropriate forum for your feedback on, how you feel about vaccines for students. Having said that, however, we're absolutely interested in hearing how the community feels, and we value your comments. We just want to make clear that the forum for the vaccine, to make your voice known is that survey. So that's that part. Lastly, Board Policy 1430 states in part, the President may exercise discretion to interrupt or terminate an individual's statement if it's too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Speakers, I will call you, the ones who filled out cards, in the order that they were turned in. If you could please come to the podium when you're called, state your first name and last name, and we ask you please don't remove your face covering. We can hear you fine with the microphone. So, our first speaker tonight is Sarah Garriott.
It's going to make me nervous watching that clock. Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Barr. First, a true story that was given to me this last week from a mother for her 10-year-old son in a neighboring district. Mama, I don't think I have control over my body. I think other people have the power over my body. When people tell me to put on my mask, I know they have power over my body, my teachers and other adults. His wise mother further probed, how do you deal with that? What do you do? Her son answered, I pretend it's not my body, and then it doesn't feel like hurt anymore. To her horror, this mother immediately recognized her son's describing the very serious condition of disassociation. Those are the words one hears from a victim of rape and war who feel powerless. But children are resilient. If they do have problems masking, they can always just choose not to participate. After all, 2-year-olds have to wear pants to the park. Now we wear masks on our face to participate, and that is how the administrator dismissed this child's cry for help. So now he is homeschooling in isolation, cut off from friends and the activities he wanted to be a part of, like a leper, unclean and cast out. Very regrettably, similar dismissive words have been uttered in this room in response to a mother pleading with this board to remove the mask and rescue her suicidal son. We've been over this so many times in board meetings. We all know the answer. The districts needed to get the schools open since Chris Reichdahl, the Board of Health, and Governor Inslee shut them down, and districts and parents were willing to do anything to open them again. And this opened the door for what I feel was nothing short of extortion. Funding public education is the state's paramount duty and the right to, and according to our Washington State Constitution. And nowhere in the Constitution does it give our elected officials the right to withhold said tax funding on conditions that they devise for our children with no representation of the people. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a German Protestant minister during the Nazi regime, said, quote, silence in the face of evil is itself evil. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. And that is why I'm speaking again in behalf of many hurting children and parents in this evening. You went to bat for us to reopen the schools, and we thank you for that. Now we need you to do it again and take the lead in the state to unmask children and end the mandates. On March 17th, it will be 2 years from 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Our children need us to speak and act in their behalf. If we do not, we are complicit in the continuation of actual, lived trauma and abuse. We have a superintendent with self-professed superpower of getting people in a room and solving hard problems. We need you to solve this one right now. We are Americans, not Americans. Get like-minded districts together in an alliance. 44 states, the UK, many countries have lifted all the mandates. We are behind you. We're excited to see you use everything in your power to end this mask abuse, trauma, and ugly division that are in our policies causing our children and our community. Make March the Unmask in March month. I believe in you. Sarah. Get it done.
Next up is Joshua Hardwick. Joshua Hardwick is next up. Joshua Hardwick.
I thought that's what I heard. Thank you, Board. Appreciate it. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Joshua Hardwick. I am a resident here in Gig Harbor. I grew up here, and now my wife and I are raising our own family in this community that we are grateful to call home. I am here this evening on behalf of the nonprofit organization called One Washington to issue a special invitation to each board member and the superintendent. I have personalized printed invitations that I will provide to each of you. Even so, I will read the invitation to you for the record, as well as the interest of the community members present in this audience this evening. This is your formal invitation to attend a One Washington-sponsored educational seminar entitled COVID-19 Vaccines, A Second Opinion. Featuring guest presenter Dr. Robert Malone, an internationally recognized scientist, physician, and the original inventor of the core mRNA vaccine technology platform, as well as multiple non-viral DNA and RNA-mRNA platform delivery technologies. Dr. Malone will join us in person to discuss the efficacy and the safety of mRNA vaccines, including the emerging data regarding the potential health impacts of these COVID shots on school-aged children. The date of the event is Sunday, February 20th, and will be held at Harborview Fellowship, located at 4819 Hunt Street, Northwest in Gig Harbor. We note that a video was produced and distributed last year by the district, which presented perspective from 2 local physicians regarding the safety and COVID shots for children. Accordingly, we would understand the leadership of this district would be highly interested in hearing Dr. Malone's perspective, since he is the inventor of COVID shot technology. Therefore, we provide you with this invitation and have reserved seats for each of you on a priority basis. As a practical matter, please, because Dr. Malone will be appearing in person, we are aware that the seminar will be of great interest to more people than we are able to accommodate. Therefore, we ask each of you, please RSVP no later than the end of the day on Friday, February 4th. Thank you for your role in providing leadership to the Peninsula School District and for the commitment you have expressed to ensure the safety of every child who attends the public schools in this community. Signed, Larry Gott and Tom Jones, co-presidents.
Thanks, Joshua. Next up, we have George Young.
Good evening, Madam President and board members. You were elected for your passion for our children and community and bring a wide range of occupational experience to the board. These are terrific assets. Thank you. However, none of you have any expertise or knowledge in epidemiology or public health, nor does the board have any legal authority to make changes to regulations that are decided at state level. It's a huge waste of energy to spend time on these matters. Instead, let's talk about the real purpose of a school board. All the controversies of recent meetings have given me pause to think about what a school board really is supposed to do. Primarily, a school board is responsible for ensuring our community has the best schools we can afford. Of course, that means making sure we have them well maintained and the future growth is considered. The board must also retain a high-quality superintendent and staff with a professional background in education as a partner to guide you in that area. Recent meetings have given great presentations from staff, all basic summaries of where we are presently. Nothing that speaks to long-range goals or vision where our district is heading. Without a vision, strategies to get there cannot be developed. When Dr. Jarvis was hired as superintendent, he and the board quickly realized PSD desperately needed 4 new elementary schools and set things in motion to make that happen immediately. Emergency planning should not be the norm. Now is the time to prevent that from happening again. What are your plans for next year? Is there a vision for the next 5 or 10 years? Please get the community involved to help the board explore infrastructure needs and priorities. Organizations grow or decay. Pause buttons don't exist. I challenge you, Madam President, to focus the board's passion for our children and taking our school system to the next level rather than continued discussions on matters that are not even in your control. Taking time to address these matters at your business meeting are not serving anyone. Don't lose the momentum that PSD's gained in the past couple years when it addressed the elementary school crisis. Please get back to meaningful work for our children in school. Make PSD the envy of all the other districts. Some of the questions I have for the board: what's the plan for our crumbling high schools? Will a 4th high school be needed by 2030? Are you ready for the next enrichment levy? How will you promote the next bond to the voters? Our community is often reluctant to make big expenditures and needs to be helped to understand what is needed and why. Will you quadruple our career and technology education?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Terrell Rivera.
I'm Terrell Rivera, President of Peninsula Education Association. First, I wanted just to recognize School Board Appreciation Month. Hopefully you have been spoiled and treated to things from our students and our community. Recognizing that, I think it's, I appreciated having the students open our meeting and just share a little bit of the joy that they bring to us as educators and your purpose for why we're all here and why we're doing the work. So thank you for that. I also was pleased to hear that you're working on the strategic plan and the mission and vision of our district. I think I can speak for all of our staff when we say that we want to be working forward together on a vision that works for our community, everyone in our community, and as you just heard, pushes us forward to consider all aspects of education, from our buildings to what's happening inside of our buildings. So thank you for that. I also appreciated the piece about words and actions being in alignment and including stakeholders. And so even though our business and our oversights are about education, our district also is one of the largest employers in the area. And so I did want to talk about that through the lens of wellness of your staff. As you know, I've come and shared that we're working on a grant, a planning grant. I have to submit it on Tuesday. So I'm working heavily on kind of the big pieces of that, really focusing on educator retention and for our early career educators and those who have been in our district. I think we've talked where we have had over 100 staff turnover this year. So having 100 out of 600 staff new, is a big change and a lot of investment. And the money and time and effort we put into bringing people into our district, we want to keep them here because that's what's best for our students when we have quality educators. Most recently, I did conduct a survey of our staff, just kind of understanding where they are with well-being to help me kind of put together our thoughts for our final grant proposal. And 450, about 75% of our staff went ahead and answered that survey. I think that it'd be important for you to know that 64% of those who answered felt that this school year was more stressful than any other year that they've experienced. Pieces that impact that are just providing and working with students who are absent and getting that work, having to sub and cover for other classes and not getting their planning, and then just resources and other things. I wanted to end with the one piece that was most eye-opening for me when 51% of respondents reported that they considered resigning or taking leave during this year, and this was taken in January. So I just want our community to support everybody and understand that we're here vested to work with students, and we need everybody's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Next up is Kayleen Westford.
Hi, good evening, Superintendent Barr. Good evening, Board of Directors. It is with great hope and great excitement that we present a letter to you this evening along with our packets of solutions. And this is from the people of the state. It's from the people of this district. And so we greatly hope that we will solve these issues together. We will restore our rights. Dear Peninsula School Board Directors, never before in the history of Washington has your job been so difficult. I extend my gratitude for your service. Since the National School Board Association has attempted to weaponize the FBI against concerned parents, I am unfortunately compelled to state this disclaimer. This letter and the enclosed documents are in no way meant to cause you to feel threatened in any way. I hope that you see these documents as an opportunity to receive support. The enclosed public disclosure requests have been served to all directors of the Peninsula School District. Many districts across the state, including Seattle School District and several more throughout King County, will be or already have been served the same documents over the next 30 days by thousands of parents statewide who have come together as a unified voice. To ensure that this effort is recognized as a demonstration of support, the Pierce County Sheriff, Ed Schroyer, has also been given a copy of these documents and informed of our peaceful intent. We recognize there is a fundamental conflict of interest between school government and parents. School government has a vested interest in the system as a whole, while parents have a vested interest in the children. We have identified that the source of this conflict may stem from the fact that our local school boards have been forced to give away increasingly more decision-making authority to the Washington State School Directors Association and other state agencies. The Superintendent of Public Instruction, Chris Regdahl, has clearly threatened to withhold taxpayer funds that rightfully belong to our district based on whether or not we comply with health policies we may or may not agree with. Nowhere in the revised Code of Washington is power granted to Mr. Reichdahl or the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction to withhold or bribe the funds they are tasked to dispense to local districts. Is it possible that if Mr. Reichdahl indicates or acts on the threat of withholding funds, this would imply extortion on his part? I'm going to turn it over to the next reader.
Thank you, Kayleen. Brent Erickson.
We the people founded this country with a structure that was designed to keep the greatest authority at the local level of government. Yet our governor and state agencies have made unilateral decisions for the whole population, while ignoring the voices of the local school boards and parents. Perhaps we lost sight of that original vision of strong local authority when we let state and federal agencies like WSSDA and OSPI and the National School Board Association gain enough control to withhold our state funding over matters that should be a personal medical choice for every citizen. All of us share the responsibility of getting ourselves into the dangerous predicament of a few people dictating to the masses. We also share the responsibility of getting ourselves out of this predicament. There is a solution and a path forward. The documents enclosed are our first act of helping you, our school board, take back your rightful authority to determine how best to represent the parents of this district. Please use these public disclosure requests as an opportunity to educate yourselves, as well as a famous person coming into town, and us, so we can better understand the entanglement we find ourselves in with OSPI, WSSDA, and other state agencies who are overstepping their lawful boundaries. According to RCW 28A.345.020, all Washington State school boards are required to be members of WSSDA. Representative Joel McIntyre has introduced a bill currently being drafted in the Washington State Senate that proposes that local school board membership in WSSDA be optional rather than mandatory. Making membership optional would return decision-making authority back to the local level and send a clear message to WSSDA that we erroneously let power become too centralized. WSSDA has been treating Washington students and parents as if they belong to one large district rather than respecting the authority of the 295 elected school boards in this state. Go Truckers to Ottawa.
Thank you, Brent. Casey Olsen.
Good evening, board members. I'll finish the letter. In addition to providing the information requested in these documents, we ask that the Peninsula School Board do all of the following. 1, reach out to our district's legislators expressing your support of Representative Joel McIntyre's bill to make WASDA membership optional. 2, strongly urge WASDA to withdraw membership from the NSBA. Currently, almost 20 other states have left the NSBA, and Washington parents are very disappointed to see WASDA's silence on the matter. 3, pass a resolution acknowledging and affirming that parents are the primary stakeholders in their children's future. Tonasket School District recently passed this resolution, and its neighboring districts are considering doing the same. A copy of this resolution can be provided to you. As we finish the 21-22 school year, we envision a harmonious partnership between parents, school district leadership, and legislators to restore the freedom of personal choice over what our teachers and students wear on their faces and put in their bodies, as well as restore authority to the local level of government. However, if these freedoms are ignored by the Peninsula School Board, we will take our children out of the public school system by the fall of 2022. As you are all well aware, over 55,000 children have been withdrawn from the Washington State public school system over this year, and that number will more than likely triple if mask mandates are upheld and a COVID vaccine is made a requirement of attendance. As a body of parents across Washington State, we have heard your collective plea for cooperation and help. You've been sincerely telling us that your hands are tied by WASDA and OSPI. We understand you now, so together let's untie your hands and restore your authority to represent us, the parents of Peninsula School District. And this evening, each one of you have been provided documents that we gave to Tanya that we hope and expect you to take home with you for your review, and that we can work with you to resolve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Our last speaker tonight is Kathy Hobbs.
Good evening. Citizens are concerned with the new Washington State mandated SEL or CEL program from the CASEL Organization for K-12 Education as implemented by our Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction or OSPI. I read extensively about CEL, that is Social and Emotional Learning, from our state website. CEL is a known vehicle for critical race theory and a means of social engineering detrimental to our children. However, my biggest concern is the sex education promoted. OSPI definitions and assumptions are directly opposed to what God has established for the family. When asked about marriage, Jesus Christ referred to the very beginning, saying God created mankind, male and female. They would become one flesh, an inseparable, intimate couple for procreating, nurturing, and guiding their children to adulthood. Instinctively, we know this is so. Instead, the following is taught from the Health Glossary for Students on the OSPI website. Family, the person or people identified as one's caretakers and strongest connections. Gender, a social construct based on emotional, behavioral, and cultural characteristics attached to a person's assigned biological sex, a person's social and/or legal status as male or female. Gender identity, someone's inner sense of their gender, see transgender. Transgender, a broad term describing people whose gender expression is nonconforming and/or whose gender identity is different from the gender they were assigned at birth. Sexual intercourse, oral, genital, or digital contact with a partner's vagina, penis, or anus, commonly used to describe penetrative/insertive sex. By the way, anal sex is also known as sodomy. Jesus warns, if anyone causes one of these little ones who believes in me to stumble, it would be better for them to have a millstone hung around their neck and drowned in the depths of the sea. Now, I realize on this board some disagree with cell instruction. Others may be undecided or even support it. However, this board, our teachers, and our families must each answer to God for our actions. It is not enough to be against cell. The board, teachers, and our families must stop it. Each of us has a heavy responsibility. I'm praying for all of us now. Lord God, please look down on us and give us wisdom, courage, and strength to do what is right before you. Amen.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you all. Next up, we have a capital projects update from our Director of Capital Projects, Patrick Gillespie.
Thank you for having me back, and happy Board Appreciation Month. Thank you for all you guys do. Let's see. As I was writing up kind of my notes for tonight, I kind of realized that we are 3 years since the voter approved the 2019 bond. We've opened up 4 elementaries, and we are well underway on major modernizations of Kopachek and KPMS. So I'll be talking about those projects tonight. Pioneer. January 17th marked 1 year since Pioneer opened to students. So it's been there for 1 year, and I know Principal Strader is very excited about the school and all the amazing things going on in there. We just completed our 1-year warranty walkthrough to address any general contractor concerns. Although we have lots of other warranties on a lot of items, this is one for the general contractor to get some of the smaller items that may be there. February 1st, Pioneer has a tour and open house at 4:30. I'm very excited about that. If you recall, we did the ribbon cutting for Pioneer when there was COVID. We had a very limited group of people, so we're very excited to open our doors. And I just have the invites. I don't know all the information up. I'm sure if you look on our website or the school's website, they'll have more information if you'd like to attend. I highly recommend it. ES9, I'm sorry. All right, that's not my faux pas. Swiftwater Elementary. I've been used to calling it that for so long, and we still use the acronym to track our projects. So, apologies. Swiftwater Elementary. I'm really pleased to say the City of Gig Harbor issued our certificate of occupancy for this building on December 22nd, 2021. So we are out of a temporary status, and we have our occupancy permit in place. Contractor continues to work to complete the remaining few punch list items that are outstanding, and we are working with the contractor to close out this project. Artendale, some exciting stuff going on over there. The old building demolition started January 3rd of this year. The contractor is in process of removing debris from the site. Once the debris is removed, The large stockpiles of dirt that are along 40th, I know that's one of the big questions. What are we doing with that? That is going to be the play field for the kids. So we'll be very excited to see that move from along the road over to where the kids will be playing one day. Let's see. Something else exciting, the roadside LED reader board sign is up. You can see the new logo for Artendale Elementary, the cute little otter with a little background on it's up there, so it's kind of neat to drive by and see that. Landscape is being worked on, and also we have a ribbon cutting ceremony scheduled for March 22nd at 4:30 p.m. Look forward to seeing you guys there. Evergreen. Contractors working on completing punch list items. Site work is being done for the old school site, weather permitting, of course. And then Kopachek and KPMS, that's really where most of the stuff is really happening at this point. I just want to remind everybody that those are phased projects and portions of the building and site are being worked on while we have staff and students in the building learning and educating. And I'd like to say thank you to those great people, the students, the staff. They're doing amazingly well under some stressful circumstances. But I also have heard some really fun stories from kids and staff about, some of the things they've seen during the construction. So I think that the kids are enjoying it quite a bit. At KPMS, at Key Peninsula Middle School, classrooms and administration foundations have been poured. With the slab pour pending good weather, and hopefully we'll have that the rest of this week. Casework in the B wing is starting to be installed. Structural upgrades are in process in B wing as well. We have underground plumbing and site work that are being completed in preparation for the water tower foundation to be poured. Electrical, plumbing, and mechanical work is taking place. At Kopachek, steel at the classroom and admin additions have been erected. Steel roof deck in classroom addition is installed, as well as the wood roof structure at the admin addition is installed. Casework, wainscoting, lockers have been installed in the 200 wing. Rooftop units have been moved in the 200 wing in anticipation of new rooftop units being delivered. And electrical, plumbing, and mechanical work is taking place. So both of those projects are well underway. A lot of things are happening. It's really exciting. And as I see those rooms take shape from what they used to be at the middle schools to what they are now, I'm going to be really excited to turn over those new refreshed classroom spaces with all new mechanical, electrical, plumbing, kind of going with that. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. Any questions?
Thank you, Patrick.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Do you guys have any questions? No? Nobody?
Okay. Thank you.
Right, going easy on you. All right, next up is item 8.2, the 2021 Yearend Financial Report. Karen Anderson's going to share.
Good evening, everyone. We are bringing the year-end financials to you for 2021. We actually finished August 31st of 2021, but there's a closing process that we go through, and although we were completely closed by October 25th, going through our process and updating all of our records and submitting everything to OSPI, we were ready to report in December, but things got a little bit delayed, so here we are this month. So we're also waiting for our auditors, because auditors are ready to come in and start auditing the 2021 financials. So we anticipate that they will be coming in probably the beginning of February sometime. So. Is this on? Okay. So the first fund is, our major fund, general fund. It's the day-to-day operations. When we built our budget way back in 2019-20, so the spring of 2020, We were anticipating our enrollment to be 9,203, and our actual enrollment came in at 8,396. So about 807 FTE below budget projections. So typically when I do these presentations, we usually just give you a bunch of numbers and we walk you through the numbers. But I think it's really important that we go back and we remember what actually happened, because we are talking over a year ago, more than that. So a little bit of a recap. Remember that in March of 2020, our schools were shut down. So first thing, this is the first time it's ever happened that I know of in the history of education, public education. So as we were budget planning for this and schools were shut down and we were trying to adapt to what that would look like to bring schools back in, we had several things to consider. We had a lot of new protocols that we needed to address. And so we started planning and thinking, okay, how are we going to get students back into school? And then all of a sudden things started happening. Cases were going up. There was a tremendous fear of bringing everyone back. And so all of a sudden then we started talking about we need to start remote. And we need to switch over to remote learning for students. So we did some slow starts. So right from the beginning, our special education students were coming in from day one. Our kindergartners and our first graders, they started coming in person about 2 weeks after the start of school. We anticipated that we were going to bring second grade in person, but that got delayed. We were going to bring them in by November, and that got delayed until January. Our 3 through 5 grades, we had to come up with a modified schedule. We came up with a modified AM-PM rotation, and they started that coming in person in mid-January of 2021. Our middle and high school students, we created a schedule, an AB day schedule, and that started for second semester 1 week after second semester started. So that started in February. Our enrollment actually was between where we ended in June of 2020 and where we started in September of 2020. We were down about 900 students. Our transportation, we did a lot of new cycles. We created a lot of new routes, and as we were bringing students in throughout the year in various stages and ways, we ended up having to rebid our routes for drivers 3 different times that year. So typically we bid one time in the summer, and we start our year and we go. And if we need to add routes, we add routes. This year was an anomaly because we didn't have students in the beginning. We didn't have enough students to have full routes. And so we had to add time and we had to add routes as we created the new ways that we were bringing students in. So it was very unusual, a lot of challenges. But I wanted to make sure that we documented some of this because it's really hard to remember, especially coming into this year. So some of the things that happened to our revenues, and as I go through the numbers in the next screen, some of the things that happened in the variances is that with local non-support, we stopped collecting fees. So we weren't collecting any student fees. We weren't selling any meals because all meals were free to all students. So that included breakfasts and lunches, and we weren't renting our facilities out. We were pretty much closed to the community use. So that is a big change, and you'll see the variance to our local support in the next screen. One of the other things that happened is that because we had a significant enrollment reduction, we were anticipating that we were going to get about $9 million less than what we had originally budgeted. The legislative response to that was they gave us enrollment stabilization. They recognized that all schools, when we built our budgets, we hired staff and we were supporting, we put them into contracts. And so we had an obligation, and we were teaching our students, and we did have full staff. And without that, we wouldn't have been able to continue. So we needed that enrollment stabilization. And so we received $8 million in enrollment stabilization, which helped us keep going to support basic education. With the transportation allocation, we were originally supposed to get $5.5 million in our allocation. The state early on determined that we didn't have any riders. There were a lot of school districts that were full remote, and therefore they didn't feel that transportation was going to be a need. So they reduced our allocations, and ours was reduced about $3 million. Later on, the legislature recognized that that wasn't the case. Districts were using transportation more than, maybe in some places, more than what they had been. Remember, we were adding additional routes because we were running AM/PM routes for the 3-5 students. So we were actually incurring more costs by running double routes on some of our days. So as a response, the legislature said, no, we need to give back some of that allocation. And so we received an additional 1.5 back. And so our allocation became $4.5 million. We spent $6 million last year. So that was a hit that we had to use our levy funding to support transportation for the money that we didn't get from the state. For our federal funding, we did receive some additional funding. Federal Nutrition, they paid 100%. They gave us a reimbursement for every meal that we delivered and gave to children, breakfast and lunch. And we provided meals throughout the year. We provided meals on the weekends. We provided meals on the holidays, which is typically not something that we do. And we provided meals throughout the summer months for all students and all children. So that wasn't even school-age children. That was, as long as they could eat a lunch and we knew that they were in the vehicle picking it up, we were providing those meals for those students. And we were getting reimbursed for that. We also received some Federal CARES Act funding. We received some funding, COVID relief funding from Pierce County, and then we did also receive safety net funding. And typically we don't budget for any of those things. So you'll see the variances in the next screen. So again, the red is where we didn't receive what we had anticipated that we would receive. And again, for local non-support, it's because we weren't charging the fees that we typically would be charging. For the state revenues, a lot of that is based on the reduced enrollment, student enrollment, so programs and our basic education. Because we didn't have as many students, we weren't getting as much funding, but then that $8 million stabilization helped to offset that hit. For the federal funding, again, we received additional child nutrition funding and the safety net, and then also the COVID relief funding. And we received about 1.1, about $600,000 from Pierce County, and we received and spent $500,000 of our CARES Act funding. So what happens with the CARES Act funding is until you claim it, until you spend it, you have to claim it, then you get it. So we actually received, for CARES Act funding, we received a little over $600,000. We spent $500,000 of it in this year. The rest of it will go into this next year, 21-22. So overall, we were down in revenue based on projections, or our budget compared to actuals. We received about $2 million less than what we had anticipated. So I'm going to talk a little bit about expenditure variances. Our salaries and benefits going into the summer are pretty much set. We've already got contracts for teachers. We had done our staffing based on our projected enrollment. And we needed all of our certificated staff. If anything, we had to have smaller class sizes for those students that were in person. So we needed every staff member, and we ended up having to buy and purchase and hire more certificated staff to help support both remote learning and in-person learning in the schools. Our classified positions, they varied, keeping in mind that we needed people to help support online remote learning, but we also needed people in the schools. But it was a slow start. So some of those people, they started out with fewer hours, and their hours might have increased during the year, such as the bus drivers. So our classified expenditures weren't as much as what we had anticipated. We had a lot of positions that went unfilled, and that was just mainly because people didn't want to come back. We had some leaves of absences. People weren't sure about what was going on and how they could stay safe. And so there were some challenges with making sure that we had appropriate staffing in our buildings. For material supplies and other operating costs, we still had to purchase supplies. But they looked a little bit different. We purchased certain in-person trainings. Those types of things didn't happen in person. A lot of things that we did, it was through Zoom. So there were a lot of things where we would typically be paying a consultant or professional development or a registration or something, and we weren't being charged those things. But there were other things that we did have to purchase. We did have to purchase some PPE that we didn't get through Pierce County or through our ESDs. There were certain expenditures. We increased our HVAC filter exchange. So we are doing that 3 times a year, which typically we only do it 2 times a year. So we were incurring some different expenses, and so our expenditures don't look as different as they would have. And then keeping in mind, we were bringing on 2 new elementaries. So staffing costs for 2 new elementaries. One was for planning, the planning team for Swiftwater, and then we already had Pioneer was already set. So when you look at the expenditures, based on what we had budgeted compared to what we actually spent, we spent more on certificated salaries than we had originally budgeted, but we didn't spend as much on classified salaries. And then that also offsets with the employee benefits. In supplies and materials, we had a balance of about $2.5 million. Purchase services, a little over $500,000. Our travel, we had a savings there. No one was going anywhere. Most of our trainings and everything were offered through Zoom, and so we had a significant savings there. Our capital outlay was overspent, and what I would say is we had some furniture needs. Furniture is considered assets because we switched from tables where we could have grouping tables, and we bought a lot of desks. And so we have So that was not something that we had anticipated, but that's why there's an overage. Overall, we spent $4.8 million less than what we had originally anticipated. So when you compare your revenues and your expenditures, overall, we had a net decrease to our fund balance of $340,000, which with our starting fund balance of $17 million, we came in right around $17 million, $16.9 million. Again, a lot of that is due to the support that we got from the legislature in getting that enrollment stabilization. That allows us to move into this year, and if you'll remember, this year's budget was built on a significant chunk coming out of fund balance because we believed that we were going to need that funding to keep us going. We didn't know what was going to happen with enrollment. So overall, we had restricted fund balance of a little over $10 million. Our unassigned is $6.7 million, and we are still within the board goal of 4 to 6% at 4.86% of unassigned fund balance. Sorry, had a blank there. So, of our ending components, we break it down. We had restricted carryovers of $550,000. We had non-expendable, this is for inventories, of 2.1. A lot of that are tech devices that were ready to be deployed out for the beginning of this year. We continue to have our assigned to contingencies, our rainy day fund of $1 million, and we had carryover assigned for other purposes, 6.4, and a lot of that is building and department, but we also knew that we needed a certain amount to support this next year, and we wanted to reserve that. So overall, that's the breakdown of the ending fund balance components. So before I move on to other funds, are there any questions for the general fund? Okay. Capital Projects Fund. Let's see. This is a busy fund right now. And we have lots of money, and we're spending it. As Patrick indicated, we've got new construction for Pioneer, Swiftwater, Evergreen, and Artendale, and we've got the modernization projects now started for Copachuck and Key Peninsula. So our revenues, we've already received all of our bond proceeds. So our revenues for this year resulted in investment earnings, impact fees from Gig Harbor, the City of Gig Harbor, and from Pierce County, and a small amount from state match funding. So as we spend on our projects, we hit a level. If it's a state match project, we hit a level. Once we hit that level, we can start claiming state match. So we were spending on our biggest expenditures this year were for Pioneer. Pioneer was not a state match fund or project. Swiftwater was, and so as soon as Swiftwater reached that level, we were able to start claiming state match funding. So overall, we received $88,000 in state match funding. Compared to this year, we'll receive a lot more this year because Evergreen, Artendale, more of their expenditures, they hit that cap, and so now we are getting millions of dollars in state match funding. And we anticipate overall for those those projects that are state match eligible, all of them are state match eligible except for Pioneer. So overall, we will receive over this year and next year up to $37 million in state match funds. As you can see, we've spent $97 million. The breakdown of what that looks like, we have to track all of our expenditures as far as, is it impact fees that we're, based on the resource? Is it impact fees? Is it bond funds? Is it state match? We received the state match funding at the end of the year. I believe we received it in July. So we didn't spend it. We have not spent it yet, so therefore it's reserved in the fund balance. We have about $54 million left in bond proceeds. We are using impact fees. We are using the City of Big Harbor impact fees for Swiftwater, and we are using the Pierce County fees for Artendale and Evergreen. And we may use some of them for Copachuck and KPMS down the road because they are also we're adding classroom space to those schools, so we can use impact fees for those also. So the ending components, you'll see basically where we stand, and that's what rolls forward and then goes into this next year. Any questions about capital projects?
Can you just briefly explain what makes a school state match or a project state match eligible versus one that would not?
I was going to ask the very same question.
Let's see. I don't know if I've got Patrick. Can you help me out? No, I think number one, the way that some of ours are is because we've shown a need that we need additional. Some of it's based on the age of the building. So if it hasn't had any work done to it, at a certain point it becomes eligible to help support. The other piece is space. Is that correct?
Sorry.
State match funding.
Yeah. So after 30 years, after 30 years, we can be eligible for state assist dollars. We do asset protection program. So all of our new schools that we're getting state assist dollars on, we'll put in that, and we have to do an annual review. We bring it to the board. You may have seen those with Harbor Ridge. We have to do this for 30 years, and that's part of the piece that we have to keep in place to get that funding. And that funding's based on the needs. So like I think Karen was just alluding to, class sizes and, the needs. So I think it's what they call unhoused students. So if we don't have those, we went to met that criteria, and that's why the school got additional funding. Yeah. Did that help?
Yes.
All right. Sorry.
Thank you. So basically, unhoused students, a lot of what we said when we were going out for the bond was that we wanted to get kids in the elementaries out of portables. And so we became eligible for state match funding because our buildings were over 30 years. We hadn't done anything. But then we were also adding space to the main building in order to bring more kids in so we could get them out of the portables. So that also made us eligible. And then Swiftwater, we didn't know that we were eligible until we started to see that we were increasing. All of these classrooms are more, they add more to a building, and we can use less portables. So that was another reason why we got state match funding. And we found out about that after the fact. So.
I was just going to say it's unfortunate that a couple people left a little early before this presentation because two of them were probably the school district's staunchest opponents over the last 8 years. opposing levies and bonds. And it would have been nice for them to hear both the capital projects in this presentation, because it's really important that we remember that we passed a bond in February of 2019, and we promised the taxpayers that we would build 4 new elementary schools in 4 years. And here we are, soon to be February 2022, just 3 years later, and we built not only 4 brand new elementary schools, but we're fully modernizing 2 middle schools. And I just don't know if there's 295 school districts in the state, and we by far have the best CFO and the best capital projects team in the state. And my hat's off to you.
So now we're going to talk about debt. So, along with the sale of the bonds, we have to actually pay off the debt. And so in 2021, so we had a sale of bonds in May of 2020. We also had a sale of bonds in May of 2021. And we sold all of our bonds, and we are fast and furiously using those funds to build our projects. We will be out of bond proceeds this year, this fiscal year. And now we started our debt service payments for those bonds. They are 30-year bonds. And you can see that our interest and our principal are about 50-50 right now. As you pay off your bonds, you pay your interest, and the way that it's been built is you end up paying principal, the majority of the principal at the end. So you pay a lot of interest up front. But we got really good interest rates, low interest rates, and so our debt right now is our annual debt. So keep in mind that we're paying debt in June and we're paying debt in December. Those are our 2 debt service payments. And they amount to about $14.56 million. The variance there is we have transfer fees, and we usually budget about $10,000 for transfer fees to the fiscal agent. And you can see that we don't spend $10,000, but that's the $9,000 left over. So it's a little bit of a cushion there. The money that comes in are the taxes that we levy in order to make our debt service payments. And so the ending balance helps support what's going forward for the next payment, because we collect taxes. The majority of our taxes are collected in October and in April-May timeframe. And so we need to have enough of an ending balance in 1 year with plus the October generation of taxes to make that December payment. So that's why there's a larger ending balance than so. Okay. Any questions on debt service? Yep.
You were saying that you don't get the state match funds until after.
No. That's CARES Act. That's the ESSER and that's the federal ESSER and any of our federal funds. We have to spend them before we can claim them. So, for state match, there's an agreement that we are going to cover a certain amount locally before they give us funding. So, on our projects, there's a calculation that says this is our share and this is your share. And so what happens is as we're spending on our projects, there are certain categories of expenditures that there's a percentage that is state match. And when we hit the threshold, we're eligible for state match, Vicki Smith, she reports all the expenditures for those projects, and when we hit the threshold that allows us to collect state match, they start sending us money. We are. Oh, I skipped. Oh, sorry. Can you fix me? Sorry about that. I was hitting the button. Okay. Associated Student Body Fund. Okay. Remembering the year that we had, our students weren't able to do a lot, but they did do some. And so you can see that our revenues and our expenditures within this fund were both around $200,000, a little bit more. As I said, there were some challenges. Students didn't get to do as many of the things that they did. Their big fundraisers that happen, Tidefest and Winterfest, they didn't happen during this fiscal year. So they met the challenges, they faced them, they built budget, and they did spend, they did have activities as best they could. And so they didn't really, they actually dipped into some of their fund balance, so they were able to do the things that they could do, but they were able to maintain their fund balance. And this year, it was a much better picture, more realistic. They were able to do their fundraisers, and so it's very different this year. But last year was very minimal. And then our Transportation Vehicle Fund, we continued to get the depreciation from the state, a little over $700,000 for that. We spent $692,000 purchasing large buses and small buses, and we will continue to use our depreciation to maintain our fleet. We have a year coming up where we're going to have 12 large buses drop off our depreciation schedule. So in anticipation of that, we are trying to buy one additional large bus, more than what we need, but just so that we're prepared. We're not going to be able to buy 12 large buses to replace the 12 that come off. So we're working on that, and we know that it's coming. So, but otherwise, we're able to maintain. Down the road, our depreciation is not going to be as much as what the buses are costing us. So we are going to have to look at, do we need to offset? Do we need to add a little bit from our local levy to help support the purchase and maintaining our fleet? So that will be a discussion in future as we build future budgets and as we build future levy spending plans. So just as a wrap-up, I just want to state, it was a difficult year. It was a strange year, one that I don't think any of us had ever imagined. It was challenging. We had a lot of things that we had to do. We had to make sure that staff and students were safe. We had to do health checks. We had to do attestations. We had to figure out how to get kids in and out of school safely. We had to do what was called a 6-foot social distancing or physical distancing. We had students that were being taught fully remote. We tried to bring kids in on as soon as we could, bring them back in person. But the whole year was topsy-turvy. It was stressful. It was draining. And it was a year of challenges. And I think we were all really hopeful that that year was over. I can't say that this year is any better, but we made it. And we have amazing people. We have amazing teachers that hung in there. They did remarkable jobs. We had support staff that were out there helping. We had food service people that were working every single day, which is not typical. So I just want all of us to think that this was pretty amazing, and we did it. And it's another tough year, but we're going to make it, and we're just gonna brave through. So, but I wanted to just commend everyone, and I wanted to thank all of you for your support, because without you, we wouldn't have been able to continue. So, thank you.
Thank you. I have a quick question or comment, and I'm sure some of the rest of us do. Thank you for it's always a great and thorough presentation, which I appreciate so much. But to your last point, it was really something to see that this year that it's easy to forget about what was that school year, and just the volume of decision making and switching from one format to another, and then all the associated, you know, staffing and cost and transportation. So really kudos to everyone. And you having to figure out then what it looks like on paper.
The numbers came out easy.
Yes, so
I mean they are what they are.
Right. So we appreciate all everyone who was working at any level in the district for those challenging times. My question is that comes to mind is I know during this time, thinking back to the time when we were bringing in like the 3rd through 5th graders in a hybrid format, and I remember thinking there was some confusion in the community about how much FTE or state funding per student, if there's a factor, if they're in person or if they're in remote learning. Not whether they leave the district, but remote versus in person, if that affects the funding.
Yeah. So there is what is called alternative learning education, and that is a separate piece. We were kind of in a hybrid funding model, I'll say, from the state. We have an obligation to educate kids, and we have an obligation to teach a certain number of minutes in the year. 180 days, we have an obligation to students for that. Early on, we had committed to that, and we said that we were going to build schedules that we would be teaching those students and meeting those educational requirements for minutes and days. Having said that, we had the flexibility to build schedules that would work for students and for staff. Staff needed to be able to prepare, and so we built schedules which had asynchronous work and synchronous work. So asynchronous work, the schedules allowed students to be working independently, but they were working on student work that had been given by their teachers. And the synchronous connections, we were counting all of that time. So we had a schedule that we were maintaining the same as if it was an in-person schedule, and we were able to maintain and provide the students with the appropriate instructional minutes and days in order to meet compliance with BEA and get full BEA funding for those students. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. All right, seeing no old business and no new business, we'll move on to the Superintendent's Report.
All right. Well, I want to thank Karen, and I want to welcome all of you to year 2022 for Peninsula School District. Karen just painted a picture. We are nearing the end of year 2 and the beginning of year 3 for really a complete disruption and required change of almost every system in our schools, including but not limited to, as you heard this evening, transportation, technology, curriculum, learning, staffing, safety, and a variety of other departments. We recognize that we are all pioneers in a new world, creating community, encouraging one another through the trials and risks that we've been through. Being faced with uncertainty daily with an ever-changing and frustrating landscape for months at a time and now years at a time has been our reality. And as leaders, we recognize that it is our relationships It's our leadership skills. It's our partnerships that determine our ability to make a positive impact on our communities, our families, and staff. The ability for us to see clearly through the rate of change during these times with humility and safety in mind, yet, as we heard this evening, keeping a laser focus on children and their educational future is how your children will benefit by being part of our schools. So I want to start off the year by thanking the incredible staff for their support throughout this year. You have allowed us to grow stronger with our relationships and our partnerships. I just want to highlight the gifted and talented. I have served on the gifted and talented advisory team, and I have to tell you that Joy's name came loud and clear, and our programs in Peninsula are stellar. I know many of you joined me at the WASDA presentation that highlighted the best school districts in the state of Washington, and it is our high-cap program PACE. I'm very, very proud of the work. I actually had no idea until someone cornered me and told me how wonderful Peninsula School District, what the programs were. So I really appreciate those teachers coming out tonight. I also want to thank the many community members and the families and the organizations that have met with me or sent survey information. I have met with a lot of you, and I appreciate each and every moment that I have spent and that you have given me. I will have my 100-day plan. It is being typed up right now, but I have learned so much. People have been candid, they've been honest, and there has been a spirit of wanting to become better together. And it's not just a hashtag, but people have been really honest, and hopefully they understood that I come with a listening ear and an open heart and a willingness to make this school district the best school district that can ever be, right? And so I want to thank everyone, because without their willingness to meet with me. Also, I want to thank the board for having many retreats around the strategic plan. I'm very excited to roll this out to our leaders, and we have our first retreat tomorrow. But words matter and actions matter. So I think the community will be absolutely pleased, and I invite the community. We will have community events both in person and online with thought exchange and a variety of other opportunities for you to engage and help dream and provide inspiration and feedback to the strategic plan, and I know that the board members will probably speak to that. But I know that this will be a strategic plan that will be shared. It will be aspirational, it will be invitational, and it will be centered on students. So you will hear student voice, you will see student programs, and it will really be centered around children, so I'm very excited about that. Your willingness to share your stories and your hopes and dreams really has been invaluable in my learning where and how to move forward. So you will hear new options and opportunities for us to get better as a school district together and to highlight the wonderful things that are happening. As you heard, the board has worked very hard to articulate this progressive, inclusive, and aspirational strategic plan. And I also want to say that we will continue to advocate for increased accessibility both to the buildings and keeping our schools open. I want to thank all of you. We had close to 45 to 61, I don't know exactly the number, it's either 45 or 61 volunteers and substitutes that came forward with our real push to not close our buildings. I am very proud of the staff and of our students. It has been really difficult with this last kind of surge. There were many school districts that did close and we did not close. I am very committed, and I know as the staff is, to keep our doors open for all children every single day. And so that is a real passion, and it has been over the last 2 years. And I want to thank Peninsula School District. I also want to thank the many community members that have stepped forward and saying, how can we help? How can we help to get through this and become better? So in that light, I would absolutely encourage are community members that care deeply about the future and what we can and cannot do in the schools to really have your voice heard in the Board of Health. Really around statewide vaccines, that is something that I have spoken out. I know the board has spoken out before. I am not in favor of that. I know the OSPI, Chris Rigdal, is not in favor of mandating that at this time. We really do not have any choice in the matter. I really encourage families to fill this out because this will be a public record and information that will go directly to the Board of Health. And just know that we are a public school. I feel very strongly about this. It is our democracy, and each and every child that wants to walk in the door is welcome. And so that's really my stance. I continue to be grateful for all the leaders in the district and our board of directors. As a board, you are poised to make differences in all of our children and for all of our children, and leading with grace, integrity, and candor about the challenges, and you continue to seek solutions based on all children and all families in the system. We do not have to do all of this alone, and we were never meant to, so please help us use our formal leadership roles to champion the values and practices that respect all people, that rely on people's inherent motivation, creativity, and caring to get the quality work done. And next time we meet, I think that we will have really good news with some of our schools. We have not been lazy in the background. We have been going for some grants, but it's too soon to make those announcements, and our schools have been working very hard around that. Sometimes the bravest and most important thing you can do is just to show up, so I want to thank all of the families tonight that came and for being present and part of our school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Preston. Appreciate your comments. Now, board comments. Anyone have something they'd like to share?
We'll have the new kids start. Thank you, Superintendent Barr, and I'll just be quick. Sort of embracing the role as the new kid on the board. This has been a real fire hydrant to the face of a month for me, but I'm really, really enjoying it, and I'm trying to soak up as much knowledge as I can. Superintendent Barr, I really appreciate not only your inspirational leadership, but your technical leadership as well, because it's all happening at once, right? It's down at the granular level of what our policies and rules are as a board, as a district, all the way up to how we're being so clearly impacted at the state level. So it's a lot of learning for me with that, so I thank you for your guidance. And the other board members. You've been around this a lot longer than I have, and I appreciate your patience explaining why we can and can't do certain things. And really for me, the mind shift of going, as an individual from the outside, you want to jump right in there and start doing things, and you realize, there's always so much more that you don't realize that has to be considered, and go from, one view looking in, now being in on a team. It's a very different perspective, so I appreciate your patience with me as I continue to learn. And then the last thing, kind of echoing Superintendent Barr, the community stepping up, particularly this month, has been really amazing. I've been sort of tracking the substitutes that have been coming in. I myself was an emergency substitute teacher years ago. There was a crisis when I was living in California, and they were similar recruiting folks. So it's nerve-wracking, to throw your hat in the ring and think, I'll step in, but our community has done it. And that's really inspiring, and to see volunteers get back in the classroom. I know I've heard from teachers that they're so happy to finally see parents, so I encourage all of us, if you've got a few hours to spare, let's get in there, let's help. Two plugs for other organizations supporting schools. So I got to listen with President Glover to Communities in Schools, and if you don't know who they are, please check them out, Communities in Schools of Peninsula. The work that they do supporting students and families is just amazing. They really are the lifeline for a lot of families. And then another one that I want to plug is the Peninsula Schools Education Foundation. We heard Carol talk about what our educators have gone through. We heard these presentations and, just what our educators are going through. And that Education Foundation serves to support our educators through their grants and things like that. So 2 community organizations that, the board, I know we're familiar with them, but keep sharing them. And then for the community as well, thank you for your support. And that's all I have.
Anyone else have comments?
Okay. She's the newest board member. I'm in my 9th year on the board. And as Cresta mentioned, we're in the process. We've been working on our strategic plan now for several months. We've had multiple retreats over it as we've started to put our plan together. The district's last strategic plan we completed in 2014. And I would have to say it's fair that Dan and Karen and Carol, that we pretty much forced that on the school district at the time because we didn't have one in place, and we implemented it. Okay, it wasn't necessarily well received, but we still did it. So this time and since then, the reason we haven't had a more update one, so there's been a lot of churn in the school board. There's been some turnover in superintendents, and every time we sort of started to do it again, things just fell off, and we had the pandemic. And so I'm really proud that we have a cohesive board. We have a board right now that gets along. We may not have 100% agreement on everything, but we are respectful and we listen to each other's opinions, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate Superintendent Barr's passion for getting this right. In the past, we've taken some of these things out, whether it's a bond or our strategic plan, out into the community, and sometimes we would be there and no one would show up. So we wouldn't welcome community to show up to these events. This is your opportunity as our community to let your voices be heard. I'm very proud of this board through a very tumultuous year last year that we heard student voices and we never once had to stop a meeting. I'm really proud of that. And so please show up for these meetings if you can make it, and let us hear what you have to say about our strategic plan. But it will be student focused. We will invite the teachers, the staff, and the parents and the community to be involved in the development of the plan. And then this weekend, Creston and I will be attending the Legislative Day on the Hill in Olympia. It won't be in person this year as it has been in previous years, but Sunday we'll be attending that, and we'll hear from our state leaders about their vision for the upcoming year, and then we'll be meeting with our various state legislatures over the coming weeks to let them know what the Peninsula School District needs from them, not just talking points that are put out for us from the state, but we truly need in the Peninsula School District. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Chuck or Natalie?
There we go. So just real quick, I want to thank our staff, our teachers, the community that stepped forward. I feel kind of ashamed because we've been receiving all these gifts and accolades for being a board for the month, but it's really all of you out there that's making things work. It's the teachers and the staff, and we're just here to support you. And so, with that said, I encourage the community and the staff and everybody to fill out that survey. That is really important. The state needs to hear from you. So please do that, and that's all I'm going to say.
Being Board Appreciation Month, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you board members up here with me. It's an honor to work with you and learn from you, and I appreciate, like what David has said, that we don't always agree on everything, but I think we come to creative solutions, and I really appreciate my time with you. Also, thank you to all of our schools and students and staff members for these beautiful pieces of art. I think we are so touched by your generosity and, frankly, with all that's going on, the time that you have taken to recognize us. So it really matters to us. So thank you very much to everyone who worked on that. Some fun things, I feel like we should share. Fun things are back again, and I've had an opportunity to take advantage of a lot of them. So I went to a unified basketball game last week. Holy smokes, that's so cool. We have a really large team. And unified basketball is, how would you describe it? I mean, it's a competitive basketball team for special education.
Our programs, and John knows more than I do, but our students who are more profoundly disabled and have different challenges and really are not in a situation where they can compete in varsity or sub-varsity sports. They have their own team. They compete against like peers from around the county, maybe even farther than the county. And I tell you what, when they make a basket, it is sheer joy and excitement, and everybody cheers for both teams who are there. So it was a wonderful event.
Certainly, and do not think that.
Can I add, there are also regular ed students that are their partners and their coaches, kind of, and they play alongside. So it really, I had an opportunity to go with Dan this last weekend and John, and it's fantastic. And there's another game.
This is an Enumclaw?
Next weekend?
Yeah.
On the 5th.
If you have a chance to check it out, these are, do not be fooled. These are very competitive athletes, and it was a lot of fun. Also, I had a chance to go see Anne of Green Gables at Peninsula High School.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal students. Believe it or not, I don't like to get up and speak in front of people. It's not my thing, and so I admire people who can. And just the memorization alone. And I believe this team was hit with COVID as well, so we had some last-minute understudies. I was there on the technical preview night, which if you're not a theater junkie, you probably haven't seen it before. It was so cool just to watch some of the vaccine action. So a huge bravo to our theater production team at Peninsula High School. And tomorrow I'm hoping to go see Hound of the Baskervilles. So we've got Gig Harbor performance as well. So I just can't wait. I love that. I'm so glad that that's back on. It's a lot of hard work, and if you have time this weekend, I highly encourage you to go watch it and support the kids who've worked so hard, not just on the acting, but the sets and the design and the lighting. They do all of it. It's fantastic. Congratulations to our high school students for finishing the semester, and to our seniors. You will be entering what will be the last semester of your K-12 education. So I hope it is everything that you hope it will be. I'm so excited for prom and things like this to be back. So good luck. Keep up with those grades. They still matter. One more semester, they still matter. And also, I just wanted to say I'm so excited to bring to all of you the strategic plan. This is something we've been talking about for years, something I think that our community has been missing, and your role in it has been missing, and I think you will be really pleased to be a part of it. I think that there's nobody in this community who will not identify their part in this strategic plan and how you bring value to our school district. So, to be continued. You'll hear it soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. All right, well, just a couple quick last comments. To Natalie's point, thank you from myself as well for all the beautiful pieces of art and the treats, and we feel very spoiled. And I love all that. It's tough because I think we all want to take them home, and we can't all do that. But I plan to scour them and take good pictures and save the ones we can. So I also want to thank our students one more time that were here at the beginning, Riley and Eva, and that's going to be a regular part, hopefully, of our meetings. From now on, it will be something different every time. So won't it be fun to find out what the students of the day are? I want to thank Superintendent Barr for your leadership in a difficult and always exciting time. The work we've been doing on the strategic plan, as we've all talked about, it's actually been really fun. We've been just in a room throwing out ideas, and I thank you for encouraging us to dream big. And if we want to be the best school district in the world, why don't we strive for that? So we have had a great time and learned a lot from each other and had very different ideas, which is what you want, I think, in a school board. We all have different ideas, but that's ideal. And then we come together and fine tune it. So I can't wait to see where it goes, and I'm really excited to seek everybody's input as well from the community, because it has been a long time coming. Quick, two more things. I had an opportunity to go to one of Superintendent Barr's learning sessions at Henderson Bay High School, which feels like it was such a long time ago, but we haven't had comments. Did any of you get a chance to go to any of the listening sessions?
No, both students, Caroline, both of you were part of the Gig Harbor and the Peninsula. So I have the same group in Henderson Bay, but a smaller group. Student advisory.
So it was so cool, and I know you did those all over the place. But I just was kind of sitting on the outside, and she was meeting with 3 students the day we were at Henderson Bay, and I learned more in an hour from students about things that adults would never bring to your attention. And it was fascinating, and they were so honest, and they had very different paths and how they came to be where they are, and they were all in very different grades and situations. And students will tell you about well, the problem is the school lunch, or the bathroom door or something that's a problem, but also serious things. And it was fascinating to watch you work as well, and just the way that you really have a gift for drawing out from students, which is at the end of the day. Yes, please.
I think it's interesting, and I want the public to know that I will be bringing the strategic plan to that group and having you students talk about it, what you think about it, what you think about the strategic plan, what you think about the offerings, and talk about it from a student perspective. So I look forward to my second meeting with all of you. Yeah, it's really, if there's one thing that I can do any day, and Tanya knows this, if it's out in schools, and Dan and John, we're happy. We're happy campers, because that's really, that's why we're here, really, for students, and to listen and to make a change for the better. So, thanks.
You bet, and I'm excited. I'm envious that I wasn't here to go to the play. I would have loved to have seen that. I did, however, attend over the past couple of weeks or months several very exciting basketball games. In particular, I saw the girls' game between Peninsula and Gig Harbor, and that was one of the most exciting games I've ever attended. And there's just nothing like and I think because of COVID, we forgot, this is such a simple part of, the fabric of high school and community, but just the band, what it's like with the band in the gym and crowded and all the people, it was such a fun night. And so it was great to be, like I said, we're bringing fun back. It's coming back one thing at a time. So that's all for tonight. But regarding future meetings, we had a meeting scheduled for February 24th, which we are canceling because it's during midwinter break. Because of that, we're going to make the February 10th meeting a regular business meeting like tonight. So next meeting, February 10th, here at Swiftwater, and it'll be regular business. And with that, I will adjourn tonight's meeting at 7:56.